Hey everyone, it's Michelle Oliver, and I'm here today with Lisa Michelle Zega, as always, on Monday afternoon. And happy spring, because spring has poked its happy head into all of our lives, hopefully, at least here in Colorado, and I think in California
Well,
too.
it's super sunny. It feels like summer, but yes, just
Yeah.
delighted. I saw some pretty, I don't know my flowers, but I saw some purple ones that really got my attention today. And that was kind of fun just to notice something new. So,
Yes.
yes.
I love it. So, we are here today with our show, Courageous Conversations. And we gather like this every week, very spontaneously. Everything is unscripted. We have a topic, and then we approach it from wherever we happen to be that day. So, even though we both professionally work with women in midlife in a variety of areas, grief and life coaching and business coaching, um, we really just show up as who we are on any given day, as a human being, as a woman. And we just explore these conversations, and to us that's what defines courageous. So really it's about showing up authentically. I know that's kind of an overused word at this time, but it really is about showing up. Where are we, and how are we approaching this? So our objective is to support you in freeing up your mind and your conversations with yourself and with others to explore maybe topics that you might be stuck in certain types of thinking about. So that's my rambling today, because I'm really not that. I'm all over the place. Believe me, my world is very topsy-turvy today. So today, welcome, Lisa Michelle. It's lovely to see you in your happy tree, your
Thank
springtime
you.
blossoming
I
tree.
know I'm going to lift up so you could see more of my beautiful tree. I can't seem to get the balance between just being a talking head and also showing my tree. Maybe I need to lower it,
It's like
but
the tree is growing out of your talking head.
and see how there's the one little branch that always looks like I've got a hair out of place, and it gets me every time, so I'll start going
It's
like this.
hilarious. Yeah, I see that. Yeah, I really love your tree. I used to have a tree. Well, it wasn't that good, of a drawing, of course. But anyway, okay, so welcome. And today our topic is play. This is a topic that we've explored a little bit on Clubhouse, didn't we, last week?
Yep,
That was
yep.
really fun. And we both have done a lot of different stuff with it. So I guess you wanted me to start because I'm so discombobulated today. All right, fellow women in the life of the middle. If you are in your late 40s, early 50s, mid 50s, late 50s, late 70s, mid 60s, 80, 90, 100, 1,000, you are welcome here. If you were just born, you're welcome here.
And if you're below 40, go away. No,
Go
just
away. No, I have a lot of friends in there. Well, not a lot. I don't have a lot of friends overall, to be honest. But the friends I have, they span all age groups. Let me just tell you. I I actually have friends who are in their 20s. Well, I call them friends. I don't know. They might call me mom. I don't know. It's crazy. Okay, I love to play. And I think it's a natural inclination for me. I think I know it is for you too. So it delights me almost all the time, except when I get in trouble. And then I just want to play more, right? But what sparked me going first, let's just cut to the chase, okay? The reason Lisa Michelle said I should go first is that she wanted to do this exercise to help me to be more playful. And I am more of a rebel than anything else. So anybody suggests something like that, I'm like, what? I hate that stuff. Don't force. It's like, yeah, now we're going to laugh. Now we're going to play. Now, I don't know. It feels so contrived. So I much more would rather just kind of create the space organically, I guess. So that's all I have to say about that at the moment. Tag, you're it.
All right.
We're
Well, here's the
playing.
thing. Though I am a super fun person, if I do say so myself. No, I am a super fun person, but I'm also have a propensity to slide into an oh so serious, the sky is falling dread type mode. So these polarities live in me, and there has been certain ways where that dread monster has been trained in me, and I very easily slide into a very heavy sensations in my body. So the reason that I thought it would be fun for you to go first is because I have gotten in the habit of on purpose creating new feeling states by doing things that are contrived at first.
Mm.
And what came up for me like right away when you're, which one of the things I love about you, Michelle, and I'm just going to speak out to other people and say one of the things I love about Michelle is that she is so freaking committed to freedom, and no one's going to tell Michelle what to do. And it's awesome because it actually creates a playful dynamic in our relationship. But one of the things I was thinking about is like we could think of romance in the same way.
Yeah.
It's very easy to slide into the mundane. Routines have a way of just creating the ordinary. So to create something new, something spontaneous, something fun or romantic, like there is planning, at least in my way of thinking about it. And one of the things that I have played with myself is to recognize that I can actually change my feeling state by doing things like putting a pencil. That makes me smile. And
Mm.
that is contrived, but it actually, my body can't help but release new, what do we call it? Energy is the word in my
Endorphins,
brain, but I'm thinking of, yeah,
chemicals.
like dopamine and right. So, and I can laugh. I can just decide. I'm tempted right now to laugh until Michelle can't help but laugh because I know that would come
Yeah,
next.
that one drives me crazy. I didn't say anything last week, but that one, but look, here's why, because I'm not discounting the value of what you're saying at all.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think but in my, every personality is different, right?
yes,
So there's a difference in my mind between something that feels contrived and something that is structured. Like I'm all about planning. I totally get it with the romance or the sex or the bit, anything. But what was coming to my mind too was when like I've been hired to do this in companies
yeah.
where you can't control the personalities, unfortunately. And so that was really, I've had different challenges with that where I show
Mhm.
up super energetic, super bubbly. I'm that Monday morning motivation and oh my gosh, and what about this? And here's the music. And I would say there's like 80% of people can go in that way. But then there's this other percentage that the more you do that, the more they hate you, and they are going to resist. I mean, you can
No,
feel like,
I work in the big training spaces, so I
yeah, oh yeah,
understand
yeah,
the dynamics of
yeah.
facilitating a group. Yes.
So, and anyway, yeah. So what I believe at least is a balance in there is really what you're saying. That's not contrived. If I'm in that setting and someone says, okay, now we're going to laugh until we laugh, I will leave. I'll
Yeah.
be like, screw
And I
you.
think it's
I'm not
important in
doing it
all
that
those
way.
settings to do it with permission. Like even now, I
Uh,
was like, "Hey, what do you think? What if we just shake our sillies out?" And you're like, "Yeah, no."
I
Okay,
know,
well,
but
I can shake my sillies out.
all I'm saying is I will do it when I want to do it organically,
Exactly.
my way. And if someone tells me to do anything, unless it's like, this is how you earn, you know, 35% on your investment, like within 10 days, then I'm like, okay, show me how. but I don't know. There's some, so my whole point is like, everyone's different. Some people would be like, oh, you're so brilliant for thinking of that. Let's do it. And then they'll laugh together and it's like annoying the hell out of me, but they're loving it and that they live happily. Like, that's fine. But I think that it's just a cool conversation to have because resistance is going to come up in our own bodies around different things. And I think it's great to be able to just say, that's not fun for me.
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
it's important to be able to say that.
yeah, it's like in sex. Like I might want to do something. I think this is a really, like, I want to go do, and the other person might be, I mean, I've never had anyone say no yet, but no, I'm kidding. This is all play, by the way. I don't have sex or boyfriends or anything. so, so it's me, myself, and I. Like, let's go try that. I'm sorry, this is way off the rails. I didn't need to talk about that.
So I want to talk about play from there's a couple experiences coming up for me that just happened today. So, well, one of them happened yesterday, but anyway, so the first
that
one
is off the table because we're living in the moment.
Today I decided my dog is a Jack Russell. He tends to be smarter than me. I did not train him well, so this is not a dog training video. But I noticed
actually it is a dog training video, but we're going to bring that out more structured. It's contrived to make you think it's about play. It's a marketing tactic. Jack Russells are super hyper, right?
Yes, yes, which is a good dog for me because I can't wear him out. And so like he's gone on 16-mile hikes with me and yeah,
wow.
he's a great dog. But I noticed that I'm getting annoyed with him when we walk because he stops when I don't want to stop. He pulls the leash. So today I thought, what if I played with this and I have the principle, whatever we resist persists. So I was like, I resist what he's up to. I'm miserable. He's still doing it. I wonder what it would be like to create slack in the leash.
Yeah.
And play with my dog. And so, and then the other thing is, well, when he goes ahead, he's creating the tension in the leash. So I was like, well, how do I not resist this? And for me, the temptation is to like pull on the leash, like do a hard yank, and then I feel this icky energy that I don't like in my own body. And then I just, so anyway, all that to say, when he would veer off in a direction, I would veer in that direction to create slack in the leash. And then I would say to him, okay, let's go. Or I would just start walking, having veered his way. It was working. Then he would pull on the leash like he's pulling ahead of me. And I was like, okay, how do I not resist this? So I thought, well, what will happen if I just stop? And then I stopped, and then he would stop. Well, that's interesting. And then I would walk and it would create slack in the leash. So by the time I was done with my experiment, I do want to confess that I was a little bit like over it. So I had all these cool awareness.
Experiment aborted.
Well, I did like it wasn't so much I had taken a sweatshirt that wasn't necessary. My pants are black. I was a little hot. I'd already been out for an hour and a half. And so I recognized I had a lot of gleanings from the experiment. And then at some point, I kind of reverted to, I just want to get home now, you know? But it was really, it was just like one of the things you and I were talking about, Michelle, for all of our conversations, not just this one about play, is stretching our mind to almost like provide a defense for our opposite view. Right? So I'm like, okay, this is annoying. Okay. And then play in my mind now is like, all right, but how could I prove the opposite to be true?
Yeah.
Right? It's like my kids used to be on speech and debate, and it's like, well, you have to be comfortable defending either side.
Yes.
And I'm engaging that like play. So anyway, that was my today play with Charlie. And then I have one that's more serious, but I want to wait, pause, and let's go where we go from here.
Okay, I think that I just love the metaphor. So I just want, I love that you're, because I remember we talked about this before, that dogs behave so much better when they're off leash. It's kind of
Yeah,
like the least amount of government forces the most amount of self-government, that kind of theory. It's just true. And
yeah.
I love that you mentioned energy, the play, like that was a great visual. I was imagining the resistance in and out, and because that's all we're really doing is playing with energy and concepts. And um I think the thing for me, well, for that keeps coming up for me and I think I was sharing with you, I taught this 2-hour workshop on play on Saturday, and
I know, I wanted to go.
I learned so much. I love it. I love it, love it, love it. um but it's because I think that's just the way, like, I live my life, like always pretending I'm doing something I'm not doing. Or I mean, that sounds weird, but really it's like I like to walk out and pretend I'm in Paris if I feel like being like that, or whatever. It's just like play with it. And I was thinking this morning, I had a very difficult thing happen this morning, and I was standing there, just kept being like, okay, I'm listening to this hour and a half rant of everything that's wrong with me. I'm going to um, open up my body, and I'm just going to let this energy flow. I'm not going to resist it. I'm just going to like be present. And what kept going through my mind is self concept, perception. And that's all play is, self concept and perception. So when you own a new role for fun, and this is what came up in the workshop so much. I remember just blurting this out. A 5-year-old girl is not going to say, when you say, okay, we're playing Peter Pan, I'm Captain Hook, those are the Lost Boys, could you be the mermaid? She's not going to say, I might be able to be the mermaid. I don't know. I wish I could be the mermaid. I don't, it's so hard to be a mermaid. Like, I don't know what color my scales would be or whatever. No, she's just like, I'll be the mermaid. And then she just like becomes the mermaid, right? Whatever
Yes,
that is.
yes,
And when we do that, we can we don't have to be ourselves. We
I
don't
love
have to
that.
be the limited, shameful, loser. You didn't do that. Like, I had someone say to me, but I've never had a business before. I'm like, okay, well, let's pretend. What if, it's like
Yeah,
open the mind with energy. That's all it play is, really. And that's why it can be fun, unless someone says like what I said to her, like, what if, and she was open to it, but if she'd been like, I've never had a business before, and I just think people who start businesses who've never had a business before should go to prison for 10 years, and be punished. Like, it's all like in your receptivity to it. Okay, back to you, my love. My little acorn. No.
well, oh my gosh, I don't have it on, but one of my clients just got me an acorn necklace and it was dipped in an acorn and it's engraved. It says, "Thank you for helping me grow," TY, so she could fit it all. It's bronze in color and I
That's
love
so beautiful. What do you mean
all.
dipped in an acorn? How do you
Well,
dip
okay,
it?
so she's the one that told me it was dipped. So like an actual acorn is dipped in the bronze. Um and
Oh,
so it's an
that's
yes, and then
amazing.
there's a lid.
Oh,
So
I
the
love it.
lid is not dipped, and it screws off, so I could actually put something in there,
Like essential
theoretically.
oils. Oh,
Yeah,
oh, like a thing.
yeah, it could have a little something in there. It could put, but anyway, I was so like, I
Oh,
just
that
love that.
is so thoughtful and
I
beautiful and creative. And
and speaking of imagination, like one day I I just was like, I'm an oak. And I felt an oak tree growing out of my body. Like I just literally let myself sit there and feel it. And it was like I was sprouting, like an oak was energetically coming out of my body and roots down. And I didn't know anything about the real root system of an oak tree or whatever, but I in no way doubted that I was an oak tree. And that this like personification has become part of how I see myself, which is hilarious to me because my husband is this big giant of a human, and he's so like I'm so like flighty, and he's so steady and sturdy. So I was calling him my oak. And when I first owned myself as an oak, it was kind of like I had this little inner, almost like the little girl who's like, well, can I be a mermaid? I don't know. What color would my scales be? Until I said, no, he can be an oak and I can be an oak. We don't even have to be the same kind of oak, but I'm an oak. And then I had that experience. So
I like
I
it. You should have said your turn, Oak. You can be all of it. You can, the thing,
I
well,
can be all of it.
you keep talking because I don't want to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Well, so and another thing that you shared that came up was actually my other story, because you said, well, I sat there and I listened for an hour and a half to everything that's wrong with me, and you kept an open posture and all this. Well, I had an experience this weekend with, and I'm like, am I allowed to say this, with one of my sons who's having some medical things happen, um, fairly big medical things. And some of them mirror some of the things that I've experienced. And he was like, Mom, why didn't you get help for this sooner? And I was telling him why and my own experience. And then he says these words to me. He said, I feel like you betrayed me because I've had this for as long as I can remember. And now I'm dealing with this on my own. And it's a big deal. And the way that I played with it, play sounds a little bit funny to use this word, but the way that I'm using this word is I didn't get stuck in the identity
Yeah.
of I am a woman who has betrayed her son, meaning I am all bad and I have failed as a mother. And it didn't become bigger than what the situation was. So the way that I played with it, in fact, I got this image today, um, was, you know how ice cubes, they're frozen solid to the, like they look like they're part of the ice tray until they melt a little bit, and then the ice can be moved and there's some movement around it. Well, the playfulness was there was movement around what he said. And what that allowed me to do was to put myself in his experience, to recognize that he had some things as a child throughout his adolescence and older that I didn't remember per se. And I was going through some of my own stuff, in his childhood. And none of that mattered. None of my perspective mattered from his perspective.
Yeah.
So, what I was able to say is, you feel betrayed because you were, because you were entrusted to my care, to pay attention, to notice, to get help when it was needed. And I noticed myself getting emotional and wanting to cry. And I did cry a little bit, but I pulled myself in because this was about his experience and my experience could have a separate time. But in reflecting on the playfulness of it afterwards, and he, by the way, I just want to say he was so, I commend this human. He was so wise, and he was like, you gave me the best response a human being could ask for. And
Wow.
now we're going to get through this together. And it was really, really beautiful. And I want to honor him. But in reflecting on it and thinking about how you and I were going to be talking about play today, I was like, that's another way to play.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like I was able to move it. Like when you think of Play-Doh, it's like you can squish it, you can conform it, you can. So I was able to be with him in his experience without it making my whole life a failure. And that's
That's
fascinating.
so amazing. First of all, you know, I don't really like the word kudos, and I don't want to say congratulations, but, or good for you, but okay, let me say it this way. Reframe just how wonderful that you allowed that. How wonderful, because it is we're presented, it's like improv. Okay, you're presented with a scenario. This is what happens in our world every day, all day long.
Every day.
Here's your scenario of the moment. What are you going to do with this, right? And if everything is energy and we have the ability to reframe, to reform, to revise, to create whatever our, I don't want to say creation because I don't think of it as creation, but to focus on potentiality and then kind of let that unfold. That's what you did. It's like you can,
Yeah.
and what I think what causes so much conflict and resistance, obviously, is that we latch onto these hardened concepts, like, but I was your mother and I sacrificed everything for you, and why
Do
don't you
you
let,
not know?
because this is who I am and this was what I, and you totally let go of that, and you let the ice become water, more steam or water, more malleable. And then look what, and then you pass that energy, because when you're not in a playful state, the other person is held rigid in your rigid format. And you just
It's
like,
like the dog experience,
yeah,
right? Like to go fully back, it's like when that was shared, I could either pull back, which
yeah,
was the natural, like
sure,
internal state, right? Which creates that line of rigidity. Think of the leash, how it becomes taut.
exactly.
And now we're pulling against each other. Instead, I
Yeah,
leaned into him
yeah,
and into his pain. And in doing so, um, I felt my pain more acutely. Like when I got off the phone with
yeah,
him and my husband called right away, and I was in the midst of, I'm wanting to have a meltdown, but anyway, we had some things going on. So I answered the phone and I shared this with my husband. And of course, he's wanting to take care of me. And I'm like, do not try to take my pain away from me. Like this, like in other words, I get to feel my own sadness, and I know in doing that, that's part of the playful experience of, it's like riding a wave.
interesting.
If I'm
Yeah,
on a boogie board, I get to go, and I was having the wave of the sadness of what I wanted to provide for him versus what he experienced.
mm-hmm.
And I felt like I wanted to feel it. Don't try to take it away from me. Don't try to slap a fucking painted, and I'm not saying this against my husband, but like like the lipstick on a pig. Not yet. Not yet. Let me feel it and then let's play. If you want to put
Yeah.
lipstick on a pig, let's do that later.
Let's stick out a pig. Is that a thing that I'm another?
Yeah,
Is
it's
that
I think
another
there's actually a
universal
proverb
thing
around it,
that I
but
know nothing about?
it's this idea of rather
I
than feeling
understand.
what is, yeah.
I get it. I
But,
have
but,
to.
but putting lipstick on a pig could also be like, I'm thinking of, oh, that's Harriet the hippo. She's not a pig. But I started getting cartoonish characters in my
Yeah,
brain.
you're going off on the rails here. Okay, so, or off of the rails. So what that brought up in my mind was a core element of play, which is trust.
Yeah.
And you are able to trust the process, right? Because you have this innate trust in yourself. I mean, like highly personally developed, like this intense. No, I'm teasing, but it's
Well, I
true.
do want to
But
add to that, Shell, is that
yeah,
Michelle, is that part of it, the grief work that I personally went through,
yeah,
like I lived a lot more in the fixed, rigid, and creating greater tension. I didn't understand. So it's interesting to me that by doing grief work, which sounds like, actually has created way more play in my life, which that just seems counterintuitive to me.
But if you think of it in energy, it's stuck energy, right? Grief
Yes,
is like you're always talking about unmetabolized energy.
absolutely.
That's all
Yes,
it is. So when you free that up, when the ice cube starts to melt a bit, you
there's
have
movement.
water to turn to, maybe you could pour it out, make lemonade out of it, or you could make hot tea, or you could throw it at someone. I mean, like all of a sudden it becomes a what do you call it? Like a thing. What do you call it? Like a form that you can transform
Yeah,
into something else.
yes, yes.
So, but what I'm teasing you a little bit, but and I
No,
really
I
mean
know,
that.
but I was like, oh, there's a real thing here.
There's
So,
a
but I
real,
interrupted.
no,
Go back.
yeah, there's absolutely a real thing here, which is self-awareness. And self-awareness always includes feeling an emotion. And
Yes.
so many of us shut down, like oftentimes the I love you people that I'm referring to, but the people in the corporate environments that are super uncomfortable with that, it's because they've won so many times in their version of win or success or safety, whatever that is, by controlling,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And and most of us have these blind spots where we're controlling. And that's the thing that is the magic, oh my gosh, of play, truly. Because if you have a safe enough relationship, right, and then that you can play, trust a little with yourself or someone else, and then you go into it, and then you get to go further, and before you know it, you're an unknown to you territory, and that is transformational. I think like that's when you really go somewhere that you would never let yourself go before, but you have to go through it. So
Yes.
yeah, so I think you do have to, you have to trust yourself probably before you can trust the process.
And I think that's what stuck out to me is, and maybe you can learn those together because that's also been part of my experiences. I grow in self-trust as I'm trusting the process, and there's sort of this dance.
Yeah.
But when you said that trust is a foundation of play, and I think that's one of the reasons that the grief stuff helped me because one, I
Mhm.
recognized that rather than have compassion on myself, because I'd never really witnessed my own story, I had so much judgment. So that created self distrust. I couldn't even trust myself to be real with myself, to bring my pain to the table without being squashed by me. Then I'm like prostituting myself out. Will you accept me? Will you accept me? And then, but I'm in that energy of I'm not acceptable. So no wonder how much I got rejected. And I just love that this is all like being teased out in different ways in my mind right now of
Mhm.
and I'm experiencing, and I think you said something. I used to have something that you said to me written on my desk, but it's like it's the invitation to play a bigger game or tell a bigger story, or I don't know, like when you're, but I'm experiencing right now a call to a larger sense of play. Like, and even around this idea of my self concept, how big can I play?
Yeah.
And yeah, what were you gonna say?
No, you go. I don't want to interrupt you. I have a million ideas. There's so many dogs walking by my window. I'm sorry I keep looking over, but the weather's nice and I am right on a park and I haven't seen many dogs until like today. It's springtime. I don't know where these puppies have been. Here's what came to my mind was
Okay.
well, this is why we have, I was going to say something really bad. I won't say that. I was going to say that's why we have alcohol, but that's bad. And I'm not into alcohol except that Friday night it was kind of fun. No, I'm kidding. But this is the beauty and this is the magic too, right? Everything is magic, but think about what you can do in your imagination.
Mm.
Inside my imagination, there are no rules. There is no shame unless I bring it in. It is my kingdom, my own little corner in my own little room. I can be whatever I want to be, thing, right? But think about what that really means, like in terms of your business or whatever. Because when you're
Wow.
trying to grow and act like a person that you may not feel you are yet, but you know it's potentiality inside of you can reach it in your imagination. And not only that, but you can, I believe, my new theory is you can change a belief like that. Because if you think of belief like, when I said that, I was thinking of the therapist that I paid for like 48 years. She could have said, you can change it like that. She'd be out of business. No, but I love her kind of in a weird sort of way. Um, sorry, I'm really getting off track. But what I meant, oh, belief. Here's something that helped me, okay, was thinking of belief as feeling, not just emotion, but like the feeling of it, the overall feeling of whatever the thing is. And then when I can ride, like you were talking about the wave, when I can ride the wave of the feeling of whatever it is, like owning a dog. If I really wanted, I don't, but if I really wanted a dog, be like, get into the feeling of taking him out and all the stuff. I would be believing it. I would
Hmm.
have changed my belief because I'm feeling like it's really that simple. If I believe that I can write an essay in 15 minutes, I've proven that like 6,000 times. I know that I can do it. You know what I mean? I believe it because I know the feeling of it. And I think people get really stuck in, well, what if I can't do it? What if I can't get up on stage or whatever? I mean, use the hack that all the high performance athletes do. Just go into your imaginary like mind palace or whatever you want, create like a healing table in a room and a board members or whatever you want. Like you can do whatever you want. No one will ever know, and through doing that, we train our feeling and our abilities and our senses and our confidence. You can give this to yourself. It's like, is that magic?
It's,
It's a playground.
I love the idea that we have not just permission, but also the invitation to play, and that we can do it so differently and it can start in our imagination. And one of the things, like, because I've noticed, well, one part of it's because I didn't really approach it from a playful energy. I approached it from a oh so serious, like even work around a self concept and imagining my future self and that. But
Yeah,
one
let's
of the,
work at it, right? Yeah.
yeah, let's work
Let's
it. Yes.
work
But one of the things I noticed is even in that, when the feelings arise, maybe there's sadness, maybe there's shame, maybe there's embarrassment, who cares? Just whatever feelings arise,
Mhm.
they're telling you something. So then I could get curious. That's a curiosity is a playful
Yes.
approach. Okay, well,
Yes.
what are you saying? Maybe it's saying something really, like a dark, gloomy cloud of, you suck and you'll never arrive. Well, there is a playfulness of even being able to question things. Like that's
Yes.
part of what you and I were talking about is like, well, how do you know that's true? Right? And even being able to be compassionate and say, well, give me some evidence. Like, I don't need to reject it right away. And then another playful energy is going, well, could you help me prove the opposite is true? Because they both live there. And we can start by asking ourselves to show evidence of the opposite of whatever that gloomy thought is. It feels like another way to stretch energy and play with it in the way that we would stretch silly putty and play with it.
Yeah.
which also helps me not to take myself too damn seriously, which Art of Possibility, rule number 6, don't take yourself so damn seriously. Great book.
Yeah.
But that's one of the things I do with my clients too, is whatever they're believing, I'll have them hold it in one hand. Then I'll ask them to hold the opposite in the other hand and feel the energy of it and play with it like a slinky until you can imagine them blending. Sometimes I forget to do that for myself, which is why I always hire a coach too.
Yeah. Rule number 7, coach,
Hire a coach.
and be serious about it. No.
No.
All seriousness
Allow
aside.
for play.
Yeah, I'm teasing. That
No,
was a joke. And
I'm
also tell people when you're going to tell a joke. That's, well, only people like me have to do that. Because
I know
otherwise,
when
no
you're
one,
joking, and
I
my
know,
no's are
I know.
not like not knowing you're not not no. I know you're joking, and I have learned more about play from being it's so funny because I have a naturally playful disposition, and yet I've learned more about play intentionally on purpose from being in your orbit, which has been hugely rewarding.
Being
And
in my orbit.
yes,
Oh, that's good, because we are
I
a galaxy. Because when two or more are floating around, yeah, I think, and this is really the idea behind courageous conversations. Like, we are playing with topics. Like, we
yes,
both decided, we are interested enough in exploring. Here's what happened for me, and I know we've talked about it, but there's a lot of midlife women stuff going on in the world, which is great. Like, people are talking about all these topics, and there seemed to be kind of a pattern of specific topics, and I kind of felt like it was like tiptoeing around to make sure because as women, we always are so inclusive. We want everyone to feel good. And so oftentimes it's hard to go uncomfortable places. And I think we felt safe enough with each other. I don't really know why. We really don't know each other very well,
we
world.
keep saying that, and
It's
yet now
crazy.
we're getting to, we don't know a lot about each other's histories, or and it's not like we've been friends for a long time, and yet we keep doing this stuff that I'm like, no, 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 I'm super close with Michelle.
Yeah, well, because we have these conversations, but my point is, like, it's not like we go out walking and talking about
No.
our issues, or like we don't even live near each other or anything. So
Mm-mm.
the idea was there was a kind of a trust, and it started with curiosity. I wonder what would happen if, and think how many businesses. I always think of Sarah Blakely when she said, I don't know, I just, the Spanx girl, anyone?
Oh, I was like, please tell me who she is because I'm about to ask you.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
So it just, the first time I heard her say this, and she said, I just kept asking, what if it works? Now, every business starts like that. If you think about it, everyone always talks about the Wright brothers or whatever, but what if this idea, I don't know, I like to say, what if it was like the most brilliant idea? And what if it came directly from God? And I was
Mm,
the one that was supposed to have the idea. Why can we not think of that like that
yeah.
instead
Yeah.
of we go right into a fixed mindset. We don't even know it, where it's like, well, if I had that idea, it's probably so stupid because everybody else has already done it and they did it so much better because they're qualified, they have PhDs and everything. So I think I'll just go back and be a waitress.
uh, Liz Gilbert or Elizabeth Gilbert, she wrote a book called Big Magic. If you haven't read it, I suggest it. But one of the concepts in there is like these little fairies. I haven't read it in a long time, so I might be misquoting, but tap you on the shoulder and give you this like genius idea. And if you don't act on it, eventually those little fairies go somewhere else, which is why you're like, but I thought of that 5 years ago. That's my idea. That's my book. That's my song. That's my that
Well, there
whatever.
are fairies. Okay, let's just clear this up. Yes, there are fairies. Yes, there are brownies. Robert Louis Stevenson used to talk about that. I think of an idea, then I go to sleep, and all my brownies write my book.
Oh,
There are magic genies, or there are no such things. And there's you and God is whatever you say, or every sidewalk is a magic sidewalk. And seriously, if you step on the crack, you're going to break your mom's back. Like anything you want is what it is for you, right? I mean, is that not the truth? Like it says, like what you went through with your son, that could have been anything. That could have been a flippin' nightmare. Trust me, I know. Every mother knows.
Yeah, I
You could sit there and
what's
take
coming
it
up
so
for me
personally.
is that this power of play
Yeah,
does give us the agency to create another version of heaven or another version of hell. And really, we're
yes,
all playing in this creative energy power, and our role really does influence whether the experience is hellish or heavenly for myself or other people.
yeah,
Even in, and I'm going back to Viktor Frankl in my mind, because what happens partly in our conversation is the objectors start to come into my brain. And then what you hear me doing is answering some sort of objection that my own brain offered me, and seeing how far I can tease this out. So I'm like, okay, yeah, brain, even in really hellish circumstances where other people are imprisoned and tortured, we still have this power of imagination that can create a
yeah,
more heavenly experience for me and those around me while I'm being tortured, or a more hellish one. And it's my imagination that's creating the meaning that I'm living into in either direction. And there's a passage where it's like, this day I put before you heaven or hell. And this idea that we can choose to go in play in one direction or the other.
yes. Oh my gosh.
That's insane to me. Insanely cool.
Yeah. And again, what came to my mind when you were saying that, I love that you shared Viktor Frankl again. So when you're in any scenario, the thing is, I think again, it comes down to identification. Like, what are we identifying as? If you go into a conversation like you had with your son, just because was
Yeah.
what was brought up, you can go into, like you were saying, the mother, or you can raise out of that through a playful attitude. And every time you raise outside of a concept or a story that we are used to interacting with, or being or acting out of, the possibility to be someone different shows up, right? Because the energy becomes malleable. It's like the Play-Doh you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm going to squish it all up again.
Mm-hmm.
And turn it into something else. And that's what's happening all the time. But we're so triggered. It's like we're involved in these scripts because this magical movie, right? And then somebody says, especially like a kid or an ex-husband, or what's the weirdest thing about my ex-husband? TMI. I became aware of this. The weird thing about it is that the trigger was always like silence, like
Mm.
not existing. So it's almost like that trigger is always there. If there's ever almost
That's
oh
funny.
my God, when I know it's hilarious. When I learned the word ghosting, I'll never forget, it was 2016, 2017, 2016. I didn't even know it was a thing. But
Uh-huh.
so it's just funny. So I always when I think of ghosting, I see the emoji, and then I think of like Casper and how playful. So anyway, whatever, that's a whole nother game. But play games, because when you allow yourself to play games, you become that fluid in energy. So all I was thinking is, there you are. It's like this energy is just pouring all around us. And you chose to extend your focus to being more than a mother. And that frees up everything for them.
Mm.
Because then the script has to change, right? I love that.
Yeah.
It's so fun. And then it's so
Yeah.
interesting, because then you get more curious. Well, wow, I wonder what else is possible.
I love that, like when you were talking, there were two ways that it emerged to me. One was, hey, I can always play a bigger role, right? Because you were talking about more than. And then the other thing was, I could always play a different role. And so the question that I thought to ask myself at different times is, hey, what different role could I play in this?
Yeah.
Right? So whether it's the martyr, the victim, the villain, the what what else is here for me? Because and that's the other thing too. And I don't know how we're doing on time, Michelle. So
Who knows
it's
where my
2:06
phone
my
is?
time, but anyway, is to ask myself, to recognize for myself that all the roles live in me. They're
Yeah.
all accessible. It's never like I'm purely victim and there's a pure villain in terms of how roles live in me. I'm not talking about a specific incident in a person's life. But I'm also like, I can play the princess and I can play the queen and I could play the, Robin Hood and I could play like just who I've always wanted to be is Anne of Green Gables. She's like my favorite.
Oh, oh my God, I love her. She
I love her.
influences me deeply to this day. You guys
Her
know
and
how much
also Lizzie from Pride and Prejudice. Those are probably my two favorite female heroines.
is Lizzie the main character?
She is the main one. So
Yeah.
Jane is the one that, yeah, with Bingley is Jane, and so she plays it, but she's augmented against her, and yeah, Lizzie's the main character
Yeah.
with Darcy, Mr. Darcy.
Yeah.
And then recognizing that that wretched mom lives
Every
in me
single
too.
woman on the planet understands that.
So yeah, but
And
when I
none of us have any
recognize,
pride around it or prejudice. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
oh, okay, let me tell you one other way that I played today. So I've gotten in the habit of picking up trash on
Oh,
my
yeah.
walk. And I don't always feel like bringing a trash bag, but because I walk a dog, I've always got a little poopy bag.
And she always shares too much, but I did too. So I
So
forgive you
and I and
yet
I and I
again.
today I was like, you know what? I don't feel like picking up after people. But then this little in my mind, well, how could I be a better person that's making a better world for everyone? And look, I see these two masks on the ground. And so I created my little hand puppet and I start picking up trash because then I can throw it away and I can wear the hand puppet and continue to. And then I noticed that I was judging all the people that were littering. Pride. This is what got in my head. And you said, oh, maybe not the pride. Well, I was noticing my own pride and I was so righteous and all these other people were so lame. And then I caught myself in my judginess, but rather than condemn myself for being judgy, I was like, oh, silly willy nilly old brain, I see you. And then something magical happened. And I really believe this was because I invited play in. I started imagining every person that had worn, one of the masks that I picked up or smoked one of the cigarettes from the pack or the baby whose diaper I pick up out of the parking lot. I know, I'm like,
Oh my
a
God.
diaper? And the mama, what must she be going through that she's, leaving a diaper in the parking lot or the daddy, who knows? And oh, who drank out of this
You
cup?
got
And then
curious. You got
and
curious.
I started praying for them all. And I started recognizing then, and it was from a playful energy, how much of my trash, energetically, emotionally, or otherwise, have people needed to come behind and pick up, even though they weren't the ones that littered it? I was.
Hmm.
And it just created all of it. And Michelle, it became like a game. So I'm picking up stuff, getting to pray for people, and recognizing stuff in my own life, and none of it was that serious, and yet it was really, I forgot all about it until just like I wasn't even taking it so seriously that I'm like, oh no, this is a story to tell, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. So again, you got curious and then it's perception. I love this. Such a great example. And we can do this.
Yes.
Like we can do this.
Yes.
And a lot of people are really, I don't know. I was surprised in that workshop I taught how difficult it was for the majority of people to really get outside of a framework, a
Well,
mental
it's not
framework
surprising to
that,
me, Michelle, because think of how much energy is given to conditioning us out of play. Like I told you, I was at the airport and little kids, like it's like be quiet, be this, be that, be and the curiosity is squashed, like so that they can function in public, and then so you can function in school, and then so you can, and even someone really close to me, I was telling them how I walked on my pretend balance beam that was a shadow through the airport, or I stayed on all the blue, and they're like, but you're a grown up. And I'm like, so yeah, we get conditioned out of it, and it's up to us to recognize,
okay, but
hey,
here's the thing too, and I was going to interject this, but you already said, but I was going to mention that this comes from a woman that when she was at the air, I guess we were on Clubhouse together at that time. And I don't remember you talking about the kids getting in trouble, because I just remember that you said, I'm crawling on my hands and knees on the chairs. And I'm thinking, okay, so dear audience, play. Let me just stand up for this woman. No, I'm kidding. You can, the point is that you don't
maybe
have to
that's the story I told where they
just
were
a
like, but you're a
minute.
grown up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Climbing on the chairs, probably. Because I think it's more like some people would say that's not play, that's like inappropriate behavior. Okay, so play can be inappropriate behavior. And it's just all relative. But the point is that there's a huge power and a huge value in play to that you can use in whatever way works in your life based on your own resistance and your own identity and everything. And I also wanted to mention the word magical, because for whatever reason that can be offensive to people. And if you want to know the truth, every word can be offensive. Every thought, every action can be offensive, but as you all know, but so think of magical, because we've used that a lot today. Something magical happened. They're like, oh my God, they're witches. They believe in magic. Well, sometimes I could be a witch, but magical and the word imagination. So just think
Oh,
of it as,
they
oh,
share the
it was,
same root.
yeah. So instead of magical, just think, oh, imagine. It was like, don't be stuck in focusing on judgment, because that is the closed door to play. But if you get a little bit curious, like, I wonder why the word magic offends so many people. Maybe because it makes things you want happen without effort. What if we could just like have what we wanted without effort? Because I gave you a magic wand. Yeah. And some people will be like, that's the devil. I'm like, I wonder what just get curious like you did.
Yeah.
And um, yeah, find your own appropriate play group. Like if you want to hang out with people, like, wait a second, do you climb on chairs? Okay. I want to come to your play group or
Yes,
not.
I'm going to be at your play group, but not everybody would want to be at mine because
I
they get
will not always
embarrassed.
be in your play group for
You
sure.
can be in my play group sometimes. And when it offends your senses, well, then you can be a grown up and take care of your grown up self.
And I appreciate the permission. And so I'll just come whenever I'll just come whenever I want and stay however long I want. Or you can
Exactly.
No.
Because in fact, you are clear that you're a grown up and get to take personal
I'm clear that
responsibility.
I am going to be free of any restrictions, whatever. Yeah, I think that I like having the conversations about it. Everybody's going to experience it differently. But if you go do some research, like I've read a lot of books about this serious study of
Serious
play.
study about play.
Yeah. And I mean,
Well,
it's very, very essential.
And before we wrap up, the one thing that is occurring to me, especially with you and I having this commitment to have courageous conversations and stretch conversations to their borders and beyond and just see where it goes. That's how I'm coming to our conversations from here on out. No matter how serious, it's with the freedom to play, meaning to pull, to stretch, to experiment with, to get curious around and see where the conversations shake out.
Mm.
Doesn't mean they're right, doesn't mean but we're like, I'm giving myself that permission. I am going to play with whatever topic we are exploring.
Yeah, that's
Even
great. And I
exploring
think
seems
you
to have
we always
play.
kind of have pretty, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's great to consciously do that. And again, curiosity, courage, and creativity, like that's how it happens, right?
Yes.
And oh, I forgot what I was going to say, but yeah. Oh, so to any audience member that might still be playing with us here, what are your thoughts about play? How do you integrate it into your family, into your romantic relationships, into your business? How do you use your imagination? Are you like a Silva mind control person? Are you a manifestation person? Are you a prayer person? Like, what does, because imagination, uh, people tend to think of it differently. I'd be curious.
Yeah.
And I'm really courageous about asking you.
I would be curious too. And one of the things that for me, like I'm already getting curious within myself about the way that magic and prayer and imagination and like that feels like a really fun journey for me to think about, for me to play with. And I would love also if people would share other ideas about play and or any ways that this conversation has introduced new play,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, any value and any feedback, we want to hear from you, how you're engaging in play. I could talk about this for days, honestly, but it would be more fun just to go play, I guess. Thank you for being here. I think we're coming to a close.
Yeah,
Um,
it
but
feels like a natural
yeah,
descent.
circle. Yeah, it does. Like the energy is going, it's snack time.
Yes.
Then nap time. No, I don't get nap time today, but you can take nap time. And if not, just imagine that you are. So I really appreciate you being here. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your patience, Lisa Michelle, in my tardiness today.
It's
And
perfect.
we both appreciate everyone in the whole wide world. Even
I
those
know, I'm
people that
seriously
like
like
to
all
play
of
sniper
you.
in the parking lot. We love you. Yeah. So any last burning desire of closing comments? Okay. Well, we will
Nope.
be here again next Monday. And our topic is yet to be revealed because I don't remember what it is. I think it's, what is it? Letting go? Shame.
Is
Shame.
it shame? I
Shame.
don't know. I,
Shame and letting go.
that
Oh,
would be
it's
fun. That's
letting
going to be a
go
fun
of
topic to play with.
it's letting go of the shame to get sane or something like that. I think I combine them. Anyway, why don't
Okay.
you just all show up and find out? And we'll be back.
Yes. Yes. Meet us here.
Meet us here at the playground. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful, wonderful
You
day.
too.
I appreciate
Bye.
you. Bye.